Once a month I take myself off somewhere new, just me, my camera and no real plan. This month I ended up at Nihon Minka-en, an open-air folk museum in Kawasaki just outside Tokyo. Getting there couldn't be easier. You jump on the Odakyu line from Shinjuku, about 20 minutes on the express, get off at Mukogaoka UN station, and it's about a 15-minute walk from there. Entry is only 550 yen for adults, which honestly feels like nothing for what you get. The museum opened in 1967 and it's home to around 25 traditional buildings, farmhouses, merchant houses, a village gate, a watermill, all relocated from different regions across Japan and rebuilt here on site. Some of them date back to the Edo-period, so we're talking 17th and 18th century. The whole place is set across a hillside, so you're walking up and down through the grounds, ducking in and out of buildings as you go. I didn't know much about it before I went, and I think that's part of why I loved it so much. Before you even step outside into the open-air part of the museum, there's an exhibition hall right at the entrance, and it's a really good way to orientate yourself before you start exploring. It explains the different types of minka, the traditional folk houses, and how the designs varied depending on where in Japan you were. Mountain regions, coastal areas, farming plains, the architecture changed completely based on what materials were available locally and what the climate demanded. There are everyday objects on display too, the bit that I found the most interesting, tools and household items, the kinds of things that give you a real sense of what life actually looked like. It's not a huge space, but it sets you up perfectly for everything you're about to see outside. I was particularly interested in about how silk was made in Japan traditionally, and I loved the chance to touch real silkworm cocoons. Time for a little quiz. What do you think this huge basket was used for? Pop your answer in the comments and I'll let you know if you're right. The museum is a collection of old farmhouses and traditional buildings brought together from all over Japan, some of them over 300 years old. You just wander between them at your own pace. It's relaxed, it's green, there are birds everywhere, and it just doesn't feel at all like a tourist trap. The way they've designed it, it feels like somewhere people actually lived. What really got me was stepping inside the buildings. They're dark, properly dark. There's no lighting, trying to make things look pretty. Every building has massive wooden beams, open hearths in the middle of the floor, walls that are completely black from hundreds of years of smoke and fire. It's so atmospheric, and I found myself just standing there, taking it all in. A lot of these homes were working farmhouses, and silk production was a huge part of everyday life in a lot of areas of Japan. Families would raise silkworms upstairs where it was warm, then spin and weave the silk by hand. Looking at the old looms and tools, you get a real sense of how much skill and patience went into daily life. It wasn't just survival, there was a real craft in it. Another thing I came across was washi papermaking. A couple of the houses had these big vats, and if you've never seen the process before, it's really fascinating. You're essentially scooping up a mixture of water and plant fibres on a wooden screen and letting it drain onto a sheet. Something that delicate coming out of something so simple. Traditional washi is most commonly made from the bark of kozo, the paper mulberry. And here's where it gets interesting. While kozo and kuwa, the common mulberry whose leaves feed silkworms upstairs, are actually different plants, they're closely related members of the same mulberry family. So even the plants these farming families depended on were bound together by that same deep relationship with the mulberry world. And that connection extends beyond this museum. The Tama area of Tokyo, just a little further west, was historically famous for kuwa, mulberry cultivation, and because the trees were already there, it naturally became a centre for silk weaving during the Edo period. That tradition is called Tama Ori and is still very much alive today. On our colourful journey craft retreats, we visit a master weaver out there who works in this tradition, dyeing the silk with mulberry among other dyes, and weaving on traditional looms. So there's so much connection with what I saw today and the experiences that we have on the retreat. At the end of the visit, I found the Indigo studio, and honestly, it was worth the trip on its own. There were katagami hanging up, these beautiful hand-cut stencils used for katazome resist dyeing, and just seeing them displayed like that, you realise what an art form they are in themselves. The level of detail in the cutting is extraordinary, and the smell. If you've ever been around indigo, you'll know. It's earthy and a bit sharp. It's really distinctive. It hits you before you even see the vats. There were katazome fabric samples laid out too, and I spent a lot of time with those, looking at how the resist paste holds the pattern, where the dye bleeds slightly at the edges, the way the indigo colour has this incredible depth to it, depending on how many times it's been dipped. It's one of those crafts where the more you look, the more you see. Came away with so many ideas. This is exactly why I do these artist dates. You go somewhere with no expectations and you come back with a head full of ideas. If you're near Tokyo and you're looking for somewhere a bit different, Nihon Minka-en is well worth an afternoon or even a full day. Highly, highly recommend it. Leave me a little comment below if you enjoyed this video and like to see some more like it, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe.